This has been a very, very, very controversial video.
I remember growing up thinking that brainwashing and mind control was just something you see in comic books and cartoons.
Nope.
Now I know it's a very real thing that you can see happening daily in this country.
Yep.
Now, the big thing I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about a lot here.
People have lost their fucking minds.
A bunch of blabber in here and drool coming out of my mouth as I'm spitting because I'm about to be getting pretty passionate. The big focus is on the huge crypto collapse from yesterday. And the very suspicious, very lucky trader who was able to cash out $190 million off of it because they were shorting Bitcoin and Ethereum a day before and all the way up until a minute before Trump's Truth Social post announcing the massive tariffs on China, which crashed the entire market.
Damn!
And then 30 minutes later, they cash out $190 million. It seems like they might have known something, but that can't be, right? That would be corruption. And this administration doesn't engage in that kind of nefarious activity.
No.
Except for all the previous times that this exact same thing has happened with Trump announcing things on Truth Social that people close to him that suckle his fucking teats must have had insider knowledge on because they're able to cash out millions upon millions of dollars because of his rinse and repeat cycle of threatening tariffs, backing off tariffs, postponing tariffs, just fluctuating the market up and down. Yet people in his inner circle must be privy to this knowledge because they are making absolute bullseye trades based on that before it becomes.
I think Charlie's right about this, and I think this is a meta level problem. I think that anybody who's involved in government needs to be barred from making any trades or having anything to do with political trading whatsoever. Sorry, stock trading or crypto trading or anything like this. And this is like a meta level issue. This is a Nancy Pelosi. This is a fucking, any of the, like a fucking Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, anybody I would say this with. This is a huge issue. They should not even be able to own stock. It's such a massive conflict of interest. And maybe their immediate family. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I don't know if I'd go that far. I probably would. But one thing I'm certain about is they themselves should not be doing it. And their family shouldn't be doing it. Sorry, their spouse should not be doing it either. Then they would just leak information to somebody else. Yeah. But they definitely shouldn't be able to. Why do politicians get off the hook? I don't know. But yeah, I agree with this. This has been a problem for years.
Public. So this isn't really anything new. It's just the most egregious instance because you can literally see it. This account opens and starts shorting Bitcoin and Ethereum a day before this announcement, and then a minute before. It's
like somebody you give somebody their math your math test, and you're like, okay, copy it, but don't make it look obvious, and they just go one for one. That's it.
The Truth Social post goes live.
Yeah,
like it's unbelievable. And if you're a MAGA cultist, it actually is unbelievable. They refuse to believe it. They refuse to accept the very real reality that they are getting fucking hosed. Trump.
It's very likely that somebody that was involved with Trump's administration made this decision. Or somebody that's privy to knowledge that they shouldn't be aware of made this decision. And I think that there should be an investigation into who did that and making sure that that person never has access to information again, and potentially also criminal charges. Barron Trump? Well, I don't know. Nobody knows. Like, and this is something that I feel like I've always felt this way. This isn't a Trump MAGA cultist opinion. This is a meta level problem that's affected politics for years.
And Trump's family's net worth has exploded since becoming president. How do you defend that? Well, I'll tell you how. Because they say Trump is such a benevolent saint, he actually doesn't even keep his salary from being president. Wow, that's how much he cares about the American people. You fucking delusional homunculus. The presidential salary is actual
like
peanuts. It's literal fucking used condoms in the grand scheme of how much money him and his family are making throughout his presidency. When he was being fucking sworn in, he was still launching up to 168 new products. And that doesn't even...
No. While he's in office, he was doing the Trump phone. He did the Trump phone.
Include things like his cologne that he launched.
Whatever happened with the Trump phone, by the way? Yeah, whatever happened with this? Like, are we going to get those or not? Trump watches? He didn't, his family did? Well, when are they going to do it?
Trump gooch galore smell, the Trump watches, the Trump phone and shit like that. So that has only increased the amount of things that he is hawking to the American people to buy solely to enrich himself and his family, his fucking meme coin and all of that. His family is going...
I think that the meme coin is indefensible. The meme coin was definitely bad. I don't see how anybody can spin it as not being bad. And especially when Melania Trump did the same thing. I mean, really, it was bad. I mean, I don't... There's a big problem that I think a lot of people have where they can't, like, this is somebody like, I mean, I'm generally like pretty pro-Trump, right? I'd agree with a lot of things that he's done, not everything, but a lot of things that he's done. Like, for example, the Middle East stuff, I've been glazing him for like the last hour about that, right? But this definitely was a bad decision. And I think that a lot of people have this fixation in their mind that they're allergic to any degree of nuance or complexity to any issue. And I think that this aversion has caused them to delude themselves to a degree that's unhealthy. And so what's happened is that people will always try to come up with excuses for why something bad happens on their side. But the reality is that sometimes people that you agree with can do things that are wrong. And that doesn't mean that the people that you agree with that are doing it are evil, like in all cases. I mean, people are complex. There's good and bad things that people do. But trying to force every single person into being like this black and white cookie cutter thing because you're afraid of dealing with the nuance of the human condition is just simply setting yourself up to fail. It's you're building a web of lies. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to everybody around you. And you're just being delusional. And I don't know why people do this. I really don't. I think this is I'll probably say this a lot. It seems like it's one of these videos, right? This is a both sides issue, right? So I think that people constantly try to look up for excuses for why their side does something, but when the other side does it, it's bad. And I think this is a massive issue overall. This could all be true. Yeah, it is. It's all or nothing thinking.
In terms of how much money they are making off of his presidency. They're not even hiding it. They are just constantly making money off of you. As you suffer and get less and less money, they get more and more. They are taking the pizza and not even leaving you bits and pieces, morsels of the crust. Yeah. It's sad, and yet people love it. They will accept it with a fucking smile on their face and say, please, give me...
It's very easy to understand why they do that. So this is Charlie's, I think he probably does understand this, but like a lot of people's misunderstanding, maybe Charlie's, it is actually very easy to understand because you just don't understand what their value system is. A lot of times people perceive hypocrisy because they don't understand the scope of a person's feelings. The fact is that they don't really care whether Trump is a scammer. They don't care whether Trump was cheated on his wife or whether he was some weirdo or some other shit. They don't give a fuck about that. The only thing that they care about is that Trump is able to enact the policies that they want him to enact. Trump is not a person to them. He is a tool. And I think that another parallel to this is Hassan. The reason why a lot of people don't care about the dog at all is because Hassan represents a value system that transcends what his individual behavior is as a person. So Hassan and CatDany is the same thing. People just don't even give a shit whether CatDany said this thing or he did this thing, whether he did or he didn't. He's in this lawsuit. The reason why people still support CatDany is because CatDany represents an idea that transcends what an individual is responsible for. And I understand that, like, you can probably look at, the president of the United States and hold them to a different standard than a YouTuber. Sure, I think that's fair. But fundamentally, what we're talking about is the way that humans perceive things. People will be more than willing to accept a horrible person if that horrible person will do something that they want. And it's really just that simple. And the hypocrisy for this is actually not hypocrisy, it's a lack of perspective. You think that their value system is what they're saying. It's not, and it never was. Their value system is actually about achieving these meta-level goals, and even if they have an imperfect messenger, that's better than having no messenger at all. That's the real reason. And once you look at things through that lens, you'll understand why so many of these issues of hypocrisy are actually not hypocrisy. People just perceive it as hypocrisy because they've bought into the lie that it's been about principle to begin with. It was never about principle. This is what I've said before about how by playing the game, you oftentimes lose.
Some more. I've got more holes for you to fill. Please, come in here.
How's it different than Obama or Biden or Gavin selling a product to make a product sell it right? The point, you can make a million arguments about it, but like I'm talking about I don't care about that. Like that doesn't matter. Like I don't give a shit about that. Like that's not my point. There's a much bigger issue and an idea that I'm talking about here that doesn't have anything to do with any one person. And hopefully people can understand that.
Give me some more. I've got more holes for you to fill. Please, come in here. I'm waiting. It's just absurd. They don't even stick to a single belief anymore. Like the Epstein files, I know I have made a lot of content on in the past, so I'm not going to regurgitate that. But the Epstein files are a really good example of how they really cared about the Epstein files, and they were really upset at the failure of Joe Biden to release them in that administration. So they were hyping up Trump about all of his promises to release those Epstein files, which he has still not done and still actively just like discounts, and the entire administration denying the existence of now.
Right.
And this same group of people that was so excited for Trump to follow through on that promise is now like, oh, he didn't break any promises. In fact, it's just not even important. That's why he's not doing it. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, who cares about the Epstein files? We have so many bigger things to worry about. Like what the next product we're going to have to buy from Trump is.
It's going to be the phone. It's going to be socks, maybe. So the reason why, and this is the reason why it happened. A lot of the people that were pro-Trump were very, very much in favor of releasing the Epstein files. Trump said that the Epstein files weren't there. A lot of people, whenever Joe Biden was president, I think that they weren't really talking about it a lot too. I think that really people do care about the Epstein files, but what they really care about is being able to weaponize the Epstein files against their political opponents. That's what they really care about. And I know this might be a very, very tough pill to swallow, but I don't think people really care about what happened or not. I think a lot of people genuinely don't, because Chris Brown is still on the radio and he beat the fucking shit out of Rihanna. You have people like Sean Penn that beat the shit out of Madonna. You have people like Chuck Berry that married like a 14-year-old. You have tons of people that have done all these horrible things, and the public has accepted them to a general extent. This is true, and it's undeniable. And I understand that, again, by me saying this, people might think that it's problematic, but I can come up with a lot more examples if you want. Jerry Seinfeld. People love Jerry Seinfeld. He dated a 17-year-old girl. But do people still watch him? Yeah, they sure do. They think he's funny. And so a lot, and I can go on and on. Elvis beat women too. On and on and on about this, right? And so the point that I'm making about it is that the people that really cared about the Epstein files primarily cared about it as a tool to weaponize against their political opponents. I think if the Epstein files were theoretically released and Trump wasn't in them, theoretically, then all of the people that were Democrats would not accept them, even if they were real. I'm talking about a hypothetical. If there's a hypothetical that if they were released and Trump was not in the files and not implicated, I think they would not accept them. And I'll even go a step farther. I think that if Biden had released them and Bill Clinton wasn't in them and a number of other key people were not in them that were left-leaning, the Republicans would not accept them either. And I think that you have to look again. This is what I've said before. You might think that this is hypocritical. That's because you're not looking at it from the perspective of where their real values are. The real value is weaponizing this to hurt people that you don't like. And I think that this is what I've said before, right? How do I understand and try to perceive what people think? I think of the lowest, most base, most selfish, self-serving thing that people could possibly believe. That's why. And I think that I'm right pretty much every single time. And that's it. It's sad you have to keep saying the same thing as people don't listen. Well, it's because people don't understand. Like, people, I think it's not that people don't listen. It's that people don't want to listen. That's the reason why, because I think that people don't want to hear this. It's not, it's a very unpleasant reality, isn't it? I think it's an extremely unpleasant reality, but it is reality. It's my understanding of reality, at least.
They're just now saying it doesn't matter. We don't care. We actually don't want this information. Actually, I believe everything they're saying now. Yeah, it definitely doesn't exist. Yeah, actually, Maxwell's probably innocent too. But again, I've already talked about that a lot. Let's talk about some other stuff. The COVID vaccine. Trump just got a COVID booster. Not a conspiracy. Just out in the open, signed, documented, stamped. It is legitimate. Yes. Trump just got a COVID booster.
He did.
And this administration has constantly played into the MAGA fear of the jab. That was one of the big things with MAGA, is like how this is, contaminating us, poisoning us. They're trying to kill us with the jab. And now Trump just got the vaccine booster, and those same people, like Gunther Dickelman, are now applauding him for it, sucking a fucking fart out of his butt for it, giving him a full rim job like, yes, the president's healthy, this is great news. Meanwhile, only a few months ago, a big talking point from him and so many others is the COVID vaccine and the evil of it. But now that Trump got the vaccine booster, well, now they love it. Well, now it's great. Actually, Trump probably got the vaccine booster because he's going to immediately give all of us herd immunity. He is using himself as a selfless sacrifice with the jab, so that way his aura of being immune to COVID will help infiltrate all of us via...
I think that the COVID vaccine controversy was not really about the vaccine itself. I think that the real controversy was about the fact that you couldn't question it, and it was semi-mandatory for a lot of different reasons. That was the real reason why people got radicalized against the COVID vaccine. I think that if you just looked at it, and I think that's really what happened. And so basically, whenever you had to get a vaccine, there is a very, very strong line, and I think that people find it to be very uncomfortable whenever there is compelled medical behavior. Like, you have to take this medical thing. And I think that really, if you're just like a logical, reasonable person, you see that this vaccine comes out, it's been out, the COVID has happened for a year. A lot of other vaccines, these have been out for a very, very long time. And so people have a lot more trust in, let's say, the polio vaccine versus the COVID vaccine because of its tenure. So this vaccine comes out, and immediately people have to accept it as being completely valid, totally unproblematic. And you had government officials at the time saying that if you got the vaccine, you wouldn't get COVID, which turned out later on to not be true. And I think that a lot of reasonable, rational people saw that, and it made them extremely uncomfortable. And the fact that they couldn't express that discomfort, and they also couldn't behave according to that discomfort, and they were compelled by either the government or by their job or by society as a whole to behave in this way and to undergo medical treatment that they were not necessarily confident about, that's the real reason why people were upset about the COVID vaccine. I think that's really what happened. And if the COVID vaccine wasn't as, pseudo-mandatory culturally, I don't think that you would have really had the same type of pushback. If they had come out and said, well, we don't know whether this is going to completely stop it, but we're doing our best, and this is our first attempt at it right now, and there's people discussing it online, whether it's a controversial topic, etc., I don't think that you even see 10% of the hostility and the paranoia that's happened. And I think that really the proof is in the pudding. You can look at, in retrospect, the amount of trust that the government, I think, has lost after COVID. Think about how much people distrust the government because of how COVID was handled. And I think also, this is a point Charlie isn't bringing up, the COVID vaccine was developed under Trump to a pretty large degree. I mean, it was. Now, it was announced a couple of days after the elections were over, but at the end of the day, it was still under his presidency. It was developed under him. So, Operation, yeah, exactly, right? And so I don't know why he's not bringing that up. I feel like that's probably That's probably the best example of it. But I think it's really about people not being able to question and push back against it. And even, and this could be a Mandela effect, I don't know if it is, but I remember hearing when the vaccines were being announced that they were not announced intentionally before the election because they might change the results of the election. I don't know necessarily if I'm remembering correctly, but I remember hearing things like that. So, yet we can trust Trump? Well, what I'm saying is that I'm not saying you can trust anybody, but what I am saying is that telling people that they have to trust something is very different.
Osmosis. So now we're all immune to COVID
so
thanks
that's why
to Trump getting the COVID vaccine booster or some crazy shit maybe. That one I'm just spitballing, but I'm trying to find ways they'll mental gymnastics around it. But the sad reality is they're not even going to bother trying. They're just going to be like...
And I think also there were a lot of people of the mindset that, like my dad had this mindset that, you know, because he was, you know, he had already gone through, like he got the COVID vaccine because he had already gone through pneumonia multiple times. He was missing part of his lung and he was in his 70s. So I think that there was a lot more people that were willing to get the COVID vaccine that were immunocompromised in one way or another, right? But whenever you compare that to it being compelled on healthy, you know, athletic 30-year-old adults, well, then that's a very different conversation, isn't it? And I think that's another layer to the complexity that, again, makes people more accepting of it. And I do think that Charlie is to a degree right, that there is a lot of dissonance that happens. And it's like when Trump does it, it's okay. I think, again, the crypto example is better than this example. But I do think it's true. But I'm just explaining a little bit more behind this.
Here and just be like the good little NPC drone that's like, anything Trump does is great. Can't wait to swallow more Trump meat. Even though it goes completely against all of
so you disavow RFK with his attacks on a vaccine, right? Well, I don't know everything that RFK has said. I mean, I don't know. I think that vaccines should be, you should be able to criticize vaccines, and people should have every right to be reluctant to take vaccines. They should have every right to be reluctant. I don't have an issue with vaccines. I have an issue with you having an issue with other people that have an issue with vaccines. Does that make sense? People should be allowed to come to their own conclusions, and they should make their own decisions for their own life and make their own medical decisions. If I had a kid, I'd get my kid vaccinated. I probably wouldn't get him the COVID vaccine, but I'd definitely fucking get him the polio one. What are we talking about? Of course.
He was talking about, like, so many people that were talking about the jab and how evil it is and all of that are now celebrating that Trump got it. That's just, it's just so obvious. It's so blatant. Like fucking cat turd. I don't think I've seen anything from him on Trump getting the jab here. Just radio silence, just crickets. Yeah. It's just ignore things that make you have to think. That is the cult mentality of MAGA. Anything Trump does is perfect. Anything that makes me think that maybe there's something else there, I shut out. I plug my ears to. It is fucking horrifying.
I think that this is true, and I think that this is a massive issue, but I don't think that Trump has a monopoly on cult behavior. I think that you can look at especially the way that a lot of the Free Palestine people reacted to the peace agreement and the ceasefire with Gaza as the opposite. How is it that you can protest and fight and complain and get mad about this for 2 years, but, you know, actions are taken? And again, keep in mind, I'm not happy about this. Israelis are happy about this. Israelis are dancing about this. Palestinians are dancing about this. They're the ones that are happy. So shouldn't you at least be happy that they're happy? Well, I don't hear any of that. So I think this cult behavior is, nobody has a monopoly on cult behavior. That's my point that I'm making.
Is now building a Qatari Air Force base in Idaho. Trump has accepted a huge $400 million Wumbo Turbo Superstar jet from Qatar.
He has.
It's a crazy gift. That's one hell of a donation.
It's a nice one, huh?
In there. I don't want to toss the B word around too lightly here, the bribe nomenclature, but I mean, definitely smells a little fishy over here with that, especially in regards to what came soon after. He then signed a $5.5 billion deal with Qatar for a Trump golf course. Yippee, that's great for the American...
That's right. This is what's going to happen. Absolutely. Well, we'll go.
More Trump wealth
we'll wait for the base
here through this deal, and now
I don't know about this.
He is putting a Qatar Air Force base on our homeland soil.
So that's not really the entire thing, but I can see why Charlie would be confused by this, because their messaging, like Pete Hegseth's messaging about this and also JD Vance's messaging about this, was contradictory, and it was confusing to people, and they should have done a better job with this, to be fair. But what happened really is that there was a deal that Trump finalized, or not Trump finalized, but Trump approved in 2017. And this deal was it was like the workings of this deal were beginning in 2016 with the Obama administration. This is where we were selling, I think it was 36 F-15 jets to Qatar for like $12 billion, something like this. And you can see it's like each one's like $30 million, right? It's a lot of money. Well, with a lot of really expensive things, it's very common that you're also sold a training program for those things. And this deal, and the point that I'm making with the deal is this deal has gone through 3 separate presidencies. It was initially floated by the Obama presidency. It was then, approved by the Trump presidency. It was then pretty much continued by the Biden presidency, and it was finalized again by the Trump presidency. So this really isn't a Donald Trump, like Donald Trump does not own this issue. It's just simply something that's been going on for a very long period of time. This is the same thing. Whenever you sell those jets, a lot of people come here and they're trained also to use the jets. This is part of the sales package, and they're able to do that. So these people that are Qatari, pilots are going to come to America and be trained here on an American airbase, but they're going to have their own space there in order to be trained. And so that does not mean that Qatar is building an airbase in America. Like the same way that we have bases in other countries, that's not what Qatar is doing. But they're having people trained here in order to use the jets that they bought for $12 billion. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I don't think it's a big deal. Now, you could say it's a Qatar base. Well, you can look it up for yourself. It's a facility, it's not a base. Yeah, you can look it up for yourself. Like again, you can go back and forth and you can decide this whatever you want, but you just look this up and that's clearly what it is. That changes everything. Maybe y'all should construct an airbase with North Korea and the U.S. Well, we'll see what happens, right? And anyway, but this has happened with a lot of cases. Now, and I think that if you want to have a problem and say like, well, Qatar is a funder and a sponsor of terrorism, and because of that, we're not going to do business with them, and we don't think, I don't think we should do business with them at all. That's totally fine for you to think that, but I don't think that's something that you can leverage explicitly at Trump. Because again, this deal had gone through approval effectively through 3 different administrations. 3 separate administrations. Trump said the exact same thing. Well, yeah, but that's all I'm saying. The golf course, though? Yeah, sure. Sure, you want to complain about that. Will you let you train here if you let us build a golf course? Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. U.S. is an airbase in Iraq. We already do this with Saudi Arabian pilots. Yeah. No, we do it with a lot of other countries, too. It's a very common pattern. Like, obviously, whenever we sell people $12 billion worth of jets, we want them to understand how to fly the jets. So they come over here and they learn how to fly the jets. One of the other reasons why is that some of the training tools and training resources are only available in America. Like, obviously, Qatar, the reason why they're buying the jets is because they're not making them, they don't have them. So because they don't have them, they also don't have the training tools in order to train people to use the jets either. So that's the reason. It's been happening for decades. Yes, it has. And you can look this up. About Biden's net worth doubling during his administration? Well, that's what I've said before. Like, and I said this at the beginning of the video, is that this is an existential problem for all political parties. Money being involved in politics is pollution. But I don't think that any group and any person, Nancy Pelosi does not have a monopoly on this. Neither do any of the Republican senators that have made even more money than she has. Neither does Donald Trump. None of them have a monopoly on this. This is a meta-level problem. Citizens United. Yeah, there's that too. Anyway, let's move on. The Qatar thing is disingenuous. It's a training base on a military base for Qatar. I know that, but that's why I'm explaining it.
America first, right? Yeah, it's really America first thinking right there.
Well,
yeah, and then I've already seen the cope about how actually no, this is a joint training procedure.
Yes,
this is something that we do all the time actually. And I saw JD My Chemical Romance Vance talking today about like how it's actually just all fake news and stuff.
Yeah.
Even though they have literally verbatim point blank said exactly what this deal is, and he is
exactly, and they shouldn't have said it that way. It was a mistake. It was an error in communication. They shouldn't have communicated it that way. It was stupid.
Just denying that.
Yes.
So not even the administration is in agreement on their talking points right now. It's a fucking mess.
And I think that's a fair criticism, to be honest. Like them not being aligned on explaining how Qatar is going to be trained, Qatari pilots are going to be trained here in the United States. I think that's definitely a fair criticism because it's confusing to people and it scares them.
Still, people are so brainwashed and mind controlled that they'll just accept it and be like, this is great. This is America first, actually, to put this Qatar Air Force base in Idaho. That's actually exactly what I wanted. And
if you also want my opinion, I think, like, on a meta-level opinion, I think that more interplay in terms of economics with Middle Eastern countries will be a good thing in the same way that I think that it's been a good thing between America and China because it lowers the probability of any sort of problematic behavior because nobody wants to fuck with their money. So, like, even if you take the Qatar thing out of this, I agree with the fundamental idea of it because I think that peace through trade is a legitimate strategy because nobody wants to lose money. What do you know about economics? Nothing. I'm just making it all up. Yeah, I'm just making it up. That's right. That's what I think is going to happen. Yeah. Yeah, that's the reason.
Always finds a way to surprise me with some crazy schizo posting late at night. So his most recent one is the Biden FBI placed 274 agents into the crowd on January 6th. If this is so, which it is, a lot of very good people will be owed big apologies. What a scam! Do something! President DJT. There is so much wrong with that. I think he forgot to take his suppositories because holy shit, Trump was president on January 6th. Biden did not control the FBI. But you know what? Let's play ball here and dive into a fucking fever dream, a fantasy. Let's say Joseph Biden set down his ice cream, cracked his knuckles, and assumed direct control of the FBI on January 6th and placed all of these agents in here just as Trump says. Well, why don't you do something about it? You are the president. Who are you asking to do something? God? Batman? Like, who are you trying to call? Who are you trying to summon to do
I think that this is so part of this I agree with, part of it I don't agree with. I agree with the sentiment here is that Trump complains about things too much, and I think this is something that the administration does in general. Instead of complaining, you should be acting. Like, instead of complaining about the, governor or the mayor not, like approving, like trying to like actively subvert ICE or stop ICE, why don't you pull them up on the Insurrection Act and arrest them? Do that. That's what I want to see. Charge them for sedition. Because, yeah, I agree with Charlie, but I think in the opposite direction. No. Yeah, they're not doing enough. Like, if it was up to me, these people would be in fucking jail. And so it's about optics. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Trump won't. Then because the Civil War. Oh, they're not going to have a Civil War. It's going to be over in It'd be over in minutes. Don't even tell them it's going to happen. Do it in one day. And so Trump pardoned them. Well, Trump pardoned some of the January 6 people, and that's complex. But anyway, I think that I do agree with that part. I think that it's very obvious also that whenever you have the government that's like this massive machine, I think this massive machine probably endures and has its own internal politics that sometimes does not align with what the politics of the current administration is. And I think that like probably the most obvious example of this is the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is basically like Biden didn't really get the chance to appoint a lot of justices, whereas Trump in his first term did. Trump stacked the court. And because of the fact that Trump stacked the court, that is one apparatus of the government that is effectively politicized in a way that's beneficial to him. And I think that the same thing is probably also true inside of the CIA. I think that it's true inside of the FBI. I think it's true inside of every apparatus of government, is that there is going to be its own internal politics. And for me to imagine that the FBI or something like that was like completely in lockstep with the president all the time, I mean, just a very cursory look at the JFK files would prove that to not be true. So I think that in general, the deep state is a legitimate problem, but I don't think that Trump has done even remotely enough to undo the deep state effects. You think there were a large number of federal agents January 6th and incited the crowd with the purpose of making Trump look bad while Trump was the president? Come on, man. Well, I don't know whether there were or not. When did I ever say that? I didn't say that. I don't know all the details. I don't know all the evidence. Why would I make a distinction on that whenever I don't know? That's a very specific thing. So yeah, of course.
Something. You are the president. So if this is real, why aren't you doing anything? This is a classic President DJT maneuver here. The entire administration, really, with all these crimes from the Democrats.
And I would easily, could I imagine that they had people come in there? Do I think that the FBI has placed agents in areas in order to foment unrest and cause problems? Yes, I think that they have done that. And the reason why I think they've done that is because I think it serves their goals, because it creates a need for themselves. It's the same reason on a fundamental level why websites keep redesigning themselves every 6 months to a year. It's because the design team doesn't want to get fired. So I think that a lot of people try to create a need for themselves inside of their job. And I don't think the FBI is beyond that. Why do stupid chatters keep putting words in your mouth? It's so fucking annoying. The reason why is because they're programmed by media and they're programmed by other types of controlled propaganda to behave like robots. It's like a Pavlov conditioning where it's like as soon as one person says one thing, then that means that they're saying 5 other things.
Absolutely abhorrent, vile crimes that the Democrats have done. No more playing nice. No more Mr. Nice Guy. We're showing our teeth. We're baring our fangs, and we're going to get something done about it.
And they did.
And then nothing.
Exactly.
It's all just posturing.
I totally agree with this. I totally agree. I think that he should go absolutely Old Testament scorched earth on them. And the fact that these people aren't in jail, the fact that they're not being charged for treason, sedition, other types of insane fucking crimes, it makes me so fucking mad. I hate it.
Performative. It is a game, and they are playing you. They are preying upon your gullibility and your inclination to be afraid, to constantly keep you in fear, because when you are afraid and when you are convinced that the other side is doing all of these things to get you, you are so fucking easy to control. You're so malleable.
I think this is something that's not, again, how many times have we heard that Trump is a fascist, threat to democracy, he stole the election, Russia interference? I think this is the modus operandi to almost all mainstream media and also almost all media in general. That's why people use clickbait. That's why people talk about extreme issues. It's because it's something that it's enticing to people. People want to be, the best thing that can happen for a media company is a tragedy, because a tragedy allows everybody to talk about the issue. And now people are tuning into the news because everybody wants to know what's going to happen next. So I think that really the people that truly benefit off of any sort of tragedy or any sort of civil unrest or anything like that are the media in general. I benefit from that. Like when something really bad happens, my channel viewership goes up and I make more money. That's the case with Hassan, with Charlie. If something bad happens, like a big crypto scam happens and Charlie covers it, or, a video game fails in a spectacular way, like Concord fails, Charlie covers it, he makes money. So there is a parasitic relationship that media has on events like this. And I think that mainstream media, that parasitic relationship has been escalated to the point to where they actually try to propagate and continue these negative events and these problematic things and this fearful thinking because it's beneficial for them. I think Fox does this. I think MSNBC does it. I think CNN does it. I think that they're all guilty. And even smaller places like the Young Turks or like InfoWars do it. It's true. Trump started it, bro. Come on. You think Trump started the idea of media hysteria? I don't think that's true.
They're playing that shit in the airport.
Here's a great example of what I'm talking about. Do you remember the Ocean Gate thing? Whenever those guys went down to see the Titanic? After it was obviously revealed that everybody died and the death was so instantaneous they didn't even know what happened. It was revealed later on that remember like the countdown for like when they're going to run out of oxygen and everything like that? A lot of these news stations were running this countdown and doing all of this, knowing full well that 99% chance it had already imploded and the people had been dead for hours, if not days at that point. So how is it that that happened? Was that Trump? No, it had nothing to do with Trump. It had nothing to do with politics. I think that's a great example of what I'm talking about in the least politically motivated situation I can think of. Trump does not own the idea of escalating emotional media. This has been a problem before Trump. It's been a problem after Trump. It will be a problem after Trump. That's it. They're milking it for content. Yes. Why would Israel do this? Exactly.
Now about how like the Democrats are Satan and all of that.
Yes.
If you have all of this overwhelming evidence that you claim to have about all of these crimes and all of this shit that the Democrats have done, why have you done nothing?
Exactly. Yes. True.
Would be just as guilty in that case.
Yes.
You know, what is the quote? The only thing it takes for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. Well, if you know that all of this evil is happening from the Democrats and you're doing nothing,
exactly,
you're just as guilty. Like this.
Absolutely. Completely fucking agree with this. Yes.
Is so clearly obvious to anyone that's thinking for more than 5 fucking seconds. And you don't even need to be thinking for 5 seconds to see this new Truth Social stinker here that he squeaked out as anything other than just a sham. Like, this should just be alarming into the mental decline of Trump. He was president on January 6th. He controlled the FBI. Not Biden. Biden was probably out riding his bike to a fucking twisty treat. I don't think he was down there as the puppet master pulling the strings, putting FBI agents in January 6th. It is so crazy, and yet people will just swallow it. They will swallow any shit that Trump feeds them happily, even when they know it's something bad. Like Ted Cruz saying that he got into Congress 13 years ago solely to represent the interests of Israel.
Yeah, I knew it.
He is an American politician who openly states that he is here for Israel.
I really agree with this point, too. I definitely do. This is a huge, huge problem. I really don't like the fact, I find it to be very weird that, at least in my perspective, if somebody had said this about a number of other countries, I think that very easily everybody would agree that this person is a traitor. But for whatever reason, Israel is seen as this great moral good because of the Bible. I think it's because of religion. That's the reason why. And people are also, the reason why Israel is seen as a great moral good, there's 2 big reasons. Number 1 is religion, and number 2 is people don't want to be seen as anti-Semitic because there's perceived a original sin of Europeans because of Hitler. I think that's what's happened, and the Holocaust, which was horrible. So I think that's really the reason why people are afraid of criticizing Israel, is that you have a lot of people that are criticizing Jews, and they do it under the guise of criticizing Israel. Like, oh, I just hate Zionism. Well, who's Zionism? Everybody who's a Jew. But I also think at the opposite spectrum, and this is the point that he's bringing up, and I think this is what's much more common from like mainstream news apparatuses, is that whenever you have people that are talking about, Israel and criticizing Israel, they're accused of being anti-Semitic. Like they hate all Jews because they don't like what Israel is doing. And I think that this intentional obfuscation and misrepresentation from both sides is really just 2 sides of the same coin. And that coin is not American currency. That's the fact. That is not American currency. The truth is that we should not be dealing with this at all. Israel is a foreign nation, it's a foreign country, and the amount of influence that they have over American politics should be it's degrading. Honestly, more than anything, it's degrading.
That, again, like I said, feels treasonous to me. And
I agree with him. Yes, I think that's true.
imagine most people in a different time.
So Ilhan Ilmar can say she's working for Somalia first, and Charlie says nothing. But if it's said for Israel and Ted Cruz, it becomes a problem. Explain the difference. So I think that's the reason why probably Charlie's getting a lot of negative feedback from this video. And obviously, like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people agree with it. And I think that a lot of the points that he's bringing up are valid. I'm not saying that he's wrong, but I think that this is the same issue that, for example, South Park had, is that because South Park didn't do any politics for 4 years, and Charlie very rarely makes comments and forays into politics. But whenever he does, obviously, you know, people will take note of it. And because, you know, basically South Park didn't spend 4 years making fun of Joe Biden, then whenever they decide to come back just to make fun of Trump, it seems like this is partisan and opportunistic. And whenever people see somebody who they want to be a objective source for information, or they want to understand as being unbiased, or at least having a generally like an even-handed perspective of things, and then this person's really only criticizing groups that are doing it that they disagree with necessarily, it comes off the wrong way. Because I completely agree. Ilhan Omar saying that she's working in the best interests of Somalia, I think that's a great reason to never elect her. I think that if you run for office in America, you should have to renounce citizenship to every other country in the world. If you have Israeli citizenship, you should not be able to hold office here in America, even for being on city fucking council. Okay? This is a ridiculous thing that we're even thinking about. Advocating for the best interests of Somalia. What the fuck are we talking about? I don't view there is, I mean, to be honest, Israel, I think, is much more of an existential problem because they're much more powerful than Somalia is, obviously, right? They're more influential, they have more money, they have more military, etc. So it would make sense that Israel would be seen as more of an issue. But you're right. Whenever Charlie doesn't make a video and talk about that, and he's only focusing on Ted Cruz and his adherence to Israel, I think that it does come off as one-sided. That's definitely true. Somalia is irrelevant in U.S. politics? Well, if it's so irrelevant in U.S. politics, then why are politicians in the United States trying to say that they're advocating for its best interests? Like, and I agree with you, but I think that the fact that I agree with you, like, I mean, both of these things are true at the same time.
Period would feel the same, but because of how tribalistic politics has become, if you're a big MAGA enthusiast, Trump supporter, you have to somehow just hand wave that and support it because that's what you're told you need to do.
I don't think that, I think this specific example isn't really accurate. If you look at a lot of people's criticism, I think that one of the main points of contention with a lot of right-wing people is the unwavering support of Israel. And also, if anybody had elected Trump, if you had voted for Trump thinking that he wasn't going to help Israel and work in Israel's best interest, you played yourself. For every one clip that you can find of Trump criticizing Israel over the last 40 years, you can find 100 clips of Trump praising Israel over the last 40 years. The fact is that Trump has always been pro-Israel. Kamala Harris was pro-Israel. Joe Biden was pro-Israel. Unfortunately, for the American public right now, this is not an issue that we can vote on. And I know I hate to say that, and I think that's unfair, but that's the reality. Trump was supporting Israel right from the beginning, and he always has. Anybody who thought that this wasn't what was going to happen was lying to themselves.
Even though anyone should be able to hear that and be concerned. Why does Israel have such a huge stranglehold on the American political landscape and such a massive say-so in how American companies do their business? And why do they even have like the ability to start making demands about what needs to be censored in regards to their atrocities?
100%. I completely agree. And I think most people, this is the thing, is that I think a lot of right-wing MAGA people do agree with that. And I think it's one of the biggest points of contention between them and Trump.
On American platforms, it would be alarming.
But I think also, like, it's important to keep in mind that AIPAC, that's the one of the Israeli political action committees. They help. They're involved with everybody. It's not like they're only pro-Republican. Like, they're also giving money to Democrats too. These are both sides are playing for the same team.
If the political sphere wasn't just, I have to support everything from this side no matter what. Yeah. It is fucking scary. Now, I do want to make a mention of something. It's not all horrible, awful news. There's actually a ceasefire going on right now.
Which is good.
And I can only pray that it sticks. With Netanyahu, you never really fucking know. But I can only keep my fingers
Hamas, you also never know. I mean, they are terrorists. I mean, he's totally right.
Crossed and pray for the absolute best for the Palestinians.
Sure,
and hope
of course.
that going forward, the people of Gaza will no longer need to fear being massacred by Netanyahu's IDF. Now, I know I said at the beginning of the video, the focus of this was going to be on the crypto collapse and the super lucky guy that happened to make $190 million going against all rational thinking and against all the odds. Truly a miracle.
And I think that's give Trump no credit. Well, Trump did play a very big role in it. I think Trump did something that was very smart, is that he engaged nearly every single Middle Eastern country involved in order to all give them collective ownership and collective failure if it doesn't go well. And I think that was probably the smartest thing that he did with this entire event, is engage so many of them at the same time. But yeah, and I do think that and this is another thing, right, is that whenever you engage in political topics like this, it is going to seem very problematic to people when you're talking about how bad Israel is, whenever there's also Hamas as well. Hamas is advocating for Palestinians, but they're also killing Palestinians. They kill people that protest against them. And so, like, whenever you see that and there's no discussion and no conversation about Hamas being problematic, Palestine is being oppressed by two groups of people, by Israelis and also by Hamas. And it shouldn't, neither one of them should be there.
Myself. This is just so preposterous. But now let's finally dive into the crypto collapse. CoffeeZilla made a video going over this. It's extremely well put together, so I'm going to be showing you some clips of that as we talk about it.
I don't even know what this is. I think this is all legal, kind of. I don't think it should be, as you'll see.
Yeah, they should change the rules.
Thing is, even if it wasn't legal,
it's wrong.
It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, it's
there
still
will be
bad.
No justice pursued regardless, because
I think it's a good point. Yeah.
Pretty clear that whoever this is, they are part of Trump's inner circle of cronies, and they had this knowledge beforehand what was coming. Yeah. And it doesn't take a genius to recognize that imposing these huge tariffs on China was going to have a huge effect on the market. So it was a pretty easy opportunity for them to short with that knowledge in mind and make an unbelievable amount of money. Again, if it is legal, it shouldn't be, like CoffeeZilla says.
Yes.
But even if it isn't legal, it won't matter, because they're not going to do anything about it.
But the question is, what did this guy know? Okay, how did somebody make $190 million while everyone else was losing their shirts yesterday? If you don't know, there was one of the biggest crashes.
There's a guy that killed himself over this, in fact. Over the crash. It was that bad. There are people calling for this exact drop, and example, Ben Cowan, it's a bullshit argument. I think that, I mean, like, really, do you really think that do you really think that, like, they're not doing like weird insider trading things? Because I think that they are. I don't think this is a Trump exclusive thing, but I think it is happening. Absolutely, I think it's happening.
Ever seen in crypto, and someone came in 24 hours before and started placing shorts against the market.
Yeah, you don't have to defend this. Like, this is obviously bad. I mean, there's no reason you have to. Like, this is the issue that I'm saying, is like you don't have to defend bad stuff. Like, this is obviously a bad decision that they made. This is a Trump exclusive video. Yeah, but this isn't a Trump exclusive react. Like, I'm watching this, I'm talking about it. You can disagree with the video, but don't disagree with me. I feel like I'm looking at this pretty fairly.
Just when you bet that the underlying asset is going to go down in price and you will make money on that. Now, this all started October 9th at 16:39 GMT time. They start accumulating this Bitcoin short.
So T-minus 24 hours until the rest of the world knows this information about the impending tariffs.
Yes.
They come in with $80 million that they start shorting Bitcoin with.
Somebody brings up another good point, is that it could also be somebody with knowledge of this on the Chinese side. I've actually never even considered that, but I think that's a really great point of view, is that people involved in China might have known this too. It's more likely. I don't know if it's more likely or not, but it's possible.
Not like a gamble or anything. That feels like they knew for sure something was going to happen. That is a crazy amount to come out of nowhere with. to short Bitcoin.
Now, the amount is
But
unusual.
China, I think that the reason why is because I think there's a lot more conversations and interplay between them than what the media lets on and what they let on. I bet they're talking and arguing about this stuff constantly, and we just don't hear about it. Like that Zelensky fight that happened in the White House, I bet that happens every day.
That itself is not the unusual part. Then we have Ethereum starts to get shorted at 349 GMT. Interesting. $30 million gets deposited into his account. Immediately start placing major bets that the market is going to go down. Why is this significant? Well, because at 1457, this is only a few hours later, like 12 hours later, Trump posts on Truth Social that they are calculating a massive increase on Chinese tariffs.
Zoinks. That's really lucky. This account comes out of nowhere, swinging huge numbers, swinging big time fucking doubloons here on these shorts. And then shortly after, well, it looks like something might be happening to the market here with these potential tariffs that they're calculating.
Where
I wonder how bad this has to get for there to actually be partisan support for trying to remove. Like, I really do think that money and politics is a literal poison. And unfortunately, Citizens United legalized it. And now it's just awful.
It goes from suspicious to downright diabolical.
Very, very bad.
Is the fact that at this point, the market dips a little bit.
Still my viewpoint.
You have these threats of tariffs.
Yes.
But the person does not start closing out their shorts yet.
Mm-hmm. No, that's not weird. This trader's just got diamond hands. What? He's not going to close out his position based off of just that one tweet there. No, that wouldn't make any sense. He's just got strong paws to really grip onto his positions here.
Which I think is very interesting. If you place this huge short bet and then the president tweets something like this, you would think you would close out your order. But not only do they not do that, not only do they not close out their short, they continue to place short bets against Bitcoin. In fact, this person continues to short Bitcoin all the way up till 2049.23 GMT. Why is that significant, ladies and gentlemen? It's because...
What happened at 2050?
2049 is the last short he places, okay? 2050 GMT.
I knew it.
A minute later, 1 minute later, Trump announces they're considering an 100% tariff.
That's a lot of money
on China, which of course tanks the market.
Everything to go down.
And this person makes literally $190 billion in 24 hours.
Then over the course of the next half hour, they close out all of their shorts and they cash out big time jackpot.
That should have been me. That should have been me, guys.
Wow, did they get lucky or what, huh? Man, I cannot believe the coinky-dink there. Shorting all the way up until 1
There should be an investigation onto who did this.
minute
Absolutely.
before Trump's tweet. Geez, some guys have all the luck. You would actually
I think the reason why the government doesn't do this is because they're all in on it. Republicans, Democrats, they are all in on this. They're all making money off of this. Nobody is going to stop the gravy train. There's only a handful of guys that don't do it.
Be the biggest fucking stupidest troglodyte on the planet to think that this was just like a lucky, miracle trade here from this individual. Yeah. This is clearly someone that had information about what was coming.
Of course.
The speculation is that it's Barron Trump. There's a lot of people
There's no reason why anybody should think that it's Barron Trump. There is literally no... Why do people think that? Because they know Barron Trump and he's young, and so young people are going to use computers? What are we doing here?
Providing their loose evidence that it's Barron. Yes. Nothing's confirmed on who this is, and I don't think there will ever be confirmation on who this was. But it doesn't take a galaxy brain 5-digit IQ genius to see this and recognize that the only way that something like this happens is if that person had prior knowledge of what was coming. There is no other explanation for it. So while everyone else lost tons of money, some people lost everything. This crash was so colossal that some people took their own lives because of it. The only way that someone went totally against the grain all the way up until 1 minute before the fucking, bomb dropped from Trump here, is if they knew it was coming. Like, it's just, I think it is so clear. And the only way you could possibly think anything else is if you're already brainwashed and mind-controlled and stuck in a...
It's possible that it was a coincidence, but it's not likely. I would say there's a 99% chance it wasn't a coincidence.
Mentality. I really don't know what it will take to snap people out of this. The people that are just so far gone and willing to deny all the evidence of their eyes and ears, that they're constantly being told that they need to. Following these orders of just deny everything that you see and hear from this administration and everything going on. I don't know how you bring them back into, like, being able to think.
This is a meta-level problem. I think he's right, is that people are completely consumed by dogma. I think that one of the big reasons why is because political, like I think it's probably the celebrity nature of politics nowadays. And I think that the celebrity nature of politics has lent itself very well to enabling people to become extremely cult of personality-ish, right? And I think you're seeing this happen, like, I'll give out some names, right? I think Trump's like this. I think AOC's like this. I think Zoran Mandami's like this. I think he does a very good job at it, in fact. I think Bernie, to a lesser extent, is like this, even though I consider him very much a good actor. I like Bernie, but I do think that he definitely, even unwillingly, is part of this phenomenon. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene, or whatever, MGT, like whatever the fuck her name is one of these. And I think that the more and more people that are elevated to this, like, celebrity status through politics, it will create a form of demagogism and effectively just, celebrity worship with this individual. And I think that Trump definitely, like, you had this with Obama, like, you did have this with Obama for sure. But, and I think also, according to, like, my dad and other people that I've talked to that are a lot older, JFK was a lot like this too. That's at least, like, what they've explained to me. But I think also, like, Trump definitely created a modern version of it, and he made it work.
Like, actually be
Reagan?
able to
Yeah,
think.
I think Reagan
it's
too.
fucking terrifying. It's actually extremely scary. So yeah, I wanted to yap about this morning. That's really about it. So yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, overall, I think this is kind of a mixed video for me. Like, some of the things I agree with, some of the things I don't agree with. I think that in general, the reason why a lot of people probably are like, I've seen a lot of negative comments about this video, some positive comments, etc. I think probably more positive than negative, definitely. But, like, what I'm really saying is that I think that the reason why a lot of people approach, Charlie talking about this with a lot of, like, they don't really view it as authentic, is because, number one, I think that Charlie just recently made a video about, what's his name? Hassan. And I think that people would easily say that, well, this is something that, he's just doing this because, a lot of Hassan people were angry at him, and this is posturing for him to not lose that type of an audience, right? I think there's definitely people that will see it that way. I think there's other people that will see it as, like, you can look at brainwashing that people have. And I think it's very evident to any person who isn't very, like, I mean, I don't know how much Charlie keeps up with this kind of stuff, right? And a little true. Well, like, yeah, I mean, anti-Trump, he was not authentic. Well, I think that really, whenever you're talking about meta-level problems like money and politics, and you take a meta-level problem like money and politics, and then you make it exclusive to one party, it does seem like you're obviously trying to advocate for one point of view, right? And so that's really the difference here. So I think that it really, it's an issue of, like, the right message, but communicated in a way that I think people considered it inauthentic. So does that make sense? Like, a lot of what Charlie was saying at a very baseline, I think that most of you guys and all of us agree with, right? I mean, pretty much. But I think that the only issue is that making it out like it is a, like, exclusive thing for, like, Trump, which I don't think is true.